Call to order the Monday, June 13th meeting of the Conestoga Valley Board of School Directors. Would the secretary please take the attendance?
We have 7 directors present. Mr. Talley and Mr. Hurst are not.
Thank you, but we do have a quorum. Will you please join me in the pledge of the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We would like to welcome all those in attendance as well as those who are joining us online. This is our work session, one of 2 meetings per month, in which we receive most of the informational presentations, as well as discuss and deliberate future decisions. There are also some action voting items required on timely issues or to meet time-restrained deadlines. Our meetings observe the requirements of the school code, legislative directives, and original Act 484, the Sunshine Law, all subsequent amendments, judicial rulings, and our district policies to the best of our understanding and ability. All agendas and related public documents and details are posted on the district website. That much said, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We will move on to the superintendent's comments.
Thank you, Madam President. We have 3 changes to the agenda, and they're all on the superintendent's report, all noted in red. We've added Dylan Rosso as our temporary summer technology employee. Putting your hands on over 4,000 devices is time-consuming, and Josh needs all the help he can get. With the shift to the new middle school, instead of adding an additional part-time secretary, we are increasing Johnny Lynn Frankfurt's yearly schedule from 10-month to 12-month, and we will not be filling that part-time secretary position. Additionally, we've hired Alicia Panzarella as our new high school physics teacher, and I'll be talking about her shortly. Today marks the beginning of our summer hours in the district. Building and district office hours for the public will be Monday through Thursday from 8 till 3, and we'll be closed from 11:30 to 12 for lunch. This will be posted on the website. If need be, people can contact their respective office to make an appointment outside of those hours. Summer hours will run through August 4th with the building offices reopening for the 5-day week beginning August 8th. In case you were wondering, there are 72 days until the first day of school for students. There's no excitement, and I don't understand. We continue to find those innovative risk takers in our hiring process as we fulfill staffing needs to start the next school year. Again, I can't say this often enough. I want to give a huge shout out to the teacher leaders and administrators who started the interview process with all of the candidates and then sent me the best of the best from which to choose. I'm excited to introduce a number of our recommended candidates who are in attendance tonight, so you can put a name to a face for our future Buckskins. At the high school, Melissa Swore. Melissa is actually a former CD high school Spanish teacher. She earned her bachelor's degree in Spanish education and her master's degree in Spanish from Millersville University. She earned a second master's degree, this time in educational administration from the University of Phoenix. Besides teaching at CV, she taught at Hempfield and has administrative experience at Donegal School District and Red Lion Area School District. We'd like to say bienvenido de nuevo to Melissa Swore. Welcome back.
Gracias.
Anything you'd like to say to the board, Melissa?
I'm just appreciative of your trust. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Elisa Panzarella at Millersville. Elisa earned her bachelor's degree in physics with a minor in athletic coaching and her master's degree in assessment, curriculum, technology, and education with a STEM endorsement. She is currently working on additional credits from Wilson College in the growth mindset and creative and innovative classrooms areas. Alicia is also a CV connection. She was Mr. Quirk's student teacher. She did so well with him that she secured an AP physics position at Clark County High School in Virginia, and most recently is coming to us from Eastern New York High School, where she again taught AP physics. Welcome back, Alicia.
Thank you very much, and again, thank you for the opportunity. Well, we do have 72 days until the students get here. I am more excited for the start of that, but I will take some time to relax and kind of recuperate as we all should over the summertime.
Take a breath, you bet. At the middle school, Rebecca Fry. Rebecca earned her bachelor's degree in Spanish and her master's degree in multicultural education and English as a second language, both from Eastern University. Additionally, she completed a semester abroad in Cordoba, Argentina. Argentina is just one of a dozen countries to which Rebecca has traveled. Most recently, as a middle school Spanish teacher at Hershey Middle School, we welcome this world traveler to join the Spanish team at Huskin Middle School. Otra vez, bienvenidos, Rebecca Fry.
Gracias. It's my session. I'm very excited to teach in this district.
And finally, last but not least, with her mom present, Shannon Robichaud. Shannon earned her bachelor's degree in elementary education, K-4, and special education, K-12 from Kutztown University. She just finished up her student teaching experience at Schoolhaven Elementary School. While she does not have the experience of our other recommended candidates, she already has the evaluation of those who matter, her students. Whereas her cooperating teacher described her as someone who creates a learning environment that allows her students to not only feel safe, but also allows them to take risks, her students described her as kind, helpful, motivational, responsible, and caring. Those are perfect qualities to bring to CV in the emotional support classroom at Leola. Welcome to CV, Shannon.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm very excited to start my teaching career here. It'll be fun.
Awesome. Given the quality of the candidates before you, again, I can say without question that the future of CV looks bright indeed. That's all for tonight, Madam President.
All right. Are there any board comments on recent activities? I'd like to add that we had graduation. I think Saturday is a great family-friendly day for graduation, quite frankly. And we had a gorgeous day, and it was really a nice ceremony. There was a mix of celebration and respect, and done so well. And some of you I know had graduates, so I'm sure you enjoyed it.
And one of our members received the Krill
The
Memorial.
real medal honor. Yep.
Yep.
Moving on, are there any public comments?
For outstanding leadership and contributions to the CV community
Yes.
would be our board president, Iep Writer.
Are we finished?
I am
No, it's really, next year it's gonna be a hard act to follow.
Yes.
We're just gonna keep naming Iep.
Don't put me on the list.
You
It's gonna
can
be hard.
tell the school year's over, everybody's getting a little giggly. Are there any public comments at this point? Good, I don't have to read that announcement. We'll move on to our action discussion item, the first one being the superintendent's report. I assume you have nothing more to add to that?
As noted.
I would take a motion to approve the superintendent's report.
I move we approve the report as presented.
I second it.
Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Benigno?
Aye.
Mr. Talley?
Aye.
Mrs. Kafka?
Aye.
Mr. Dillman?
Aye.
Mr. Gensel?
Aye.
Dr. Martin?
Aye.
Ms. Trowbridge?
Aye.
And Ms. Crawl?
Aye.
And now you guys are official.
He's trying to tell you you can leave, but I tell you, I take names. Take your chances. Mr. Johnson, do you have a report for us on the middle school?
Evening, everyone.
Evening.
I was contacted by our roofing supplier, Weatherproofing Technologies, which also goes by Tremco. Weatherproofing Technologies is the umbrella company that owns Tremco, Rust-Oleum, and a whole list of other companies. So we utilized Tremco on the new middle school project. Through the project, we purchased directly the roofing material. So it's not going through the general contractor or roofing contractor to have their markup added on it. So we actually get it at a discounted rate. Through that, they realized that, in a sense, they over-ordered or over-quoted for the amount of material. So they're giving us a credit back for the material that we will not need, plus also the trucking for that material, which is almost as much as the material cost itself. So it's a credit of $17,458 in the material, and it's $16,665 in the trucking. So it just tells you where trucking costs have
These are the
gone.
change orders we like.
Yeah, this is a good one, so, but yeah, it's to our credit, and it wasn't that they overestimated the materials. They have to, the way we put it in the specifications is the contractor has to provide the quantity of materials they need. But through WTI's review of it, realized that they were ordering much more material than was needed for the project.
And this
So-
isn't something we would use elsewhere as we do with
Correct,
other stuff?
yeah, and it has a shelf life on it, and I don't want
Yeah.
to be storing it,
Oh,
so,
okay.
yeah.
Any questions? I have a question for you. If I do a little juggling and do the fire alarm, does that mean you can leave? Does
It
anyone
doesn't
object if I move the agenda piece around and give Mr. Johnson a chance to get out of here?
I appreciate that.
No, that's fine.
That is item N on your agenda. These were items that were added at the last minute and weren't able to be put in where they usually would.
Yeah, so I was contacted, we've used Berkshire Systems for many years to inspect our fire alarms throughout our buildings. They reached out to me earlier this year with a more than almost, well, $10,000 increase basically over their cost. I guess they were really reviewing it. I spoke to some of my cohorts in other school districts that utilize Berkshire Systems. They did the same thing to them. So they must have started reanalyzing the amount of hours they invest to go through and do a fire alarm inspection. They do it twice a year, the once over the summer and then usually once over the holiday break. The one over the summer, they actually have to do a visual test. They pull the alarm, they listen for all the bells, they look for all the flashing lights. They need to see and hear everything. And so they must have analyzed the costs on their end. So with that, I reached out to two other companies that I've gotten. We have a relationship with Kistler O'Brien, reached out to ESCO, which is an Ephrata, and got good reviews on them. Solanco School District utilizes them, so I got a good review from them. All three numbers are pretty close, but my recommendations is we go with ESCO.
Any questions? If not, that will be on the consent agenda next week.
Great, thank you very much.
Excuse. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Budget update, Mrs. Heverly Flesher.
Yes. If he actually listens to you and leaves, I might try to figure out a way to hire you to help me with
Well,
that.
as soon as we get through all the things
going
that you're
forward,
involved in, which
I-
goes pretty far, I don't think you're gonna get out too soon. Good try.
All right, so.
He
All right.
doesn't know I'm expecting a birthday present.
Watch what you ask for, you know how he is.
No, I don't.
Okay, well then watch what you won't be surprised now when you actually get something. All right, so budget update. I know we have a lot on the agenda tonight, so I'm gonna try to skip the first couple of slides unless anyone has questions. They're really just a repeat of where we are with the index and where we left off at the last meeting. So going to slide 4, we put the revenue changes on one slide, the expense changes on the other, just to kind of make it clean. So obviously with interest rates going up, as you've noticed, Dell and I have been following that. We've been talking to the bank folks that we use and trying to get a good indication of where we think rates are going to be. So Scott Kramer's on a different side of the business, but rates going up for borrowing also means rates are going up for interest earnings. So we made an adjustment to that line item with the projected increases that the Fed is making. And then I'm going to skip the next one because it's tied actually to the expense section. And then we also had talked at the last meeting about the home and school visitor, and we applied for a grant for that, so it's a 45-55 split between the district and the grant. We are actually going to use access funds to cover the district's portion of that. So all of that is what happened on the revenue side, and then the next side is the expense side. And I had mentioned at the last meeting that we had some changes to make from staffing as we went back through the list that we showed you in December and really solidified what we needed. So the Leola grade 5 teacher, and then we've talked about the SET specialist as well. New staff to the list, and then while we were making changes, as I'm sure you're aware, we've had to hire some folks. We have the benefit of getting some new hires who are coming from other positions, so they're not brand new straight out of school. That's good, but it does mean that we're paying them a little bit more. We're not going to start them at the starting spot on the salary because they're not starting teachers. And then some other places where we had some openings, and in order to get the person we wanted, we had to go to the right section of the salary schedule, and we just sort of, Dr. Z follows that, but higher than what we had budgeted for it to be. So made the adjustment for the attritional savings, and that's through new staff, retirements, and staffing for the new middle school. So it covers all three areas. So you can see what the expense number is for that. I had skipped the on the revenue side, the PSERS and Social Security number, which is a decrease, because if you take some of this, an increase, because what happens with this is we actually have to pay the gross for those two line items that go to the state, and then they give us 50% reimbursement for each one of them. So it does affect the revenue side, even though you would think, well, wait, it's an expense. Why is it affecting the revenue side? It's that revenue, 50% revenue coming back into the district budget. And then the only other thing you'll notice, I reattached the 5-year projections to your line item for this in the board docs agenda as well. What I did try to do is highlight the particular areas so you could see actually where the changes were. So those are in yellow. The only one that's not on here, because it doesn't affect next year's budget, it affects this year's budget, is if you had looked in the past, you saw that we were projecting to be at a surplus for the end of this year instead of a deficit. Some of that is because there are just some things that we didn't get done this year that we had planned to, one of which is some in the ESSER area. So that money will get spent, it's just gonna get spent in 22-23 instead of 21-22. So because of that, we're actually gonna do a transfer into reserves to protect that money so that we can come back and use it when we need to. So that is also highlighted on your 5-year projections. So at the end of the day then, where that leaves us with the new revenue number and the new expense number is about $1 million of a deficit. You know, we had talked before, so it's really only about $100,000 difference than in reality where we were before. $600,000, which is coming out of fund balance for the PSERS and the healthcare escrow stabilization funds, brings us down to a negative about 400. And then as we talked in May, we are going to use some of that debt service refinancing line item in the fund balance to sort of offset the increase in the borrowing from the 25 million to the 44 million. So that debt service line item. That leaves us at a negative about 85,000. But remember, one of the items I said we added was the SET specialist. And if you remember the presentation from before, we have applied for PCCD grant funding for that position. We believe that grant funding will come through, and when it does, the revenue will go in to offset it and will actually be basically, balanced, but balanced with about 900,000 worth of fund balance use. So gets us pretty close. Next slide then. It gives you those fund balance line items, so you can kind of see the top one is the most important one because that's the one that's limited by the state that we can't go above 8% of our total expenditure number. If you divided that across the 260 days that we're in operation, because obviously there's stuff that happens outside of the 180 days the kids are here, that would fund us for about 25 days. So it looks like a big number, but it's less than a month. The other, obviously, you've all committed, and we will be bringing back to you next month a resolution to actually reapprove those commitments as well to kind of get that wrapped up. And then the very last slide just reiterates where we would be at with the 3.4% index for a single-family resident. So not a lot of changes, actually, from May to this month. Any questions?
The question, my comment is just pretty much standard. Every year, although we keep our percentage level, that number keeps growing.
Yes, ma'am.
And most people look at their taxes not in percentages, in dollar amounts.
Mm-hmm.
And I also know, and as you said, our values aren't growing. So, we have more and more weight on our homeowners. So, those of you that are into advocacy, you know what the topic is.
Yes.
I also, this time I was taking a look at some of the 5-year projections and surprised to see how much our debt grows long-term. I'm talking like 20 years. But take my word, 20 years goes fast. And at some point, there's going to be a board sitting in here wondering what we did to control that number, because we go from 3 million to 5 million real quick.
Yep.
And that's before we've added anything else to it.
Right.
I just think that we have to have sometimes that long-term vision of where the money's going, just like we do in loan finances.
Yes, and that number obviously grew a little bit more with the additional debt that we borrowed, so
Yeah.
we put that in. And this is only a one-time scenario, but the state did actually allocate more money to us through the slots program, through the gaming revenues this year. So, folks won't see as big of an increase because they're gonna get the offset, but that's only happening once. So it may look a little muted this year, but it'll, to your point, it'll still be
And
there
that
the next
money,
year.
is- but for those who don't understand how it works, that homestead exclusion does not come off your taxes, it comes off your assessment.
Correct.
So by the time that trickles down and becomes a tax savings, it's a lot
Yes.
less.
Okay. All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you, yeah.
Where did I put my agenda?
Over there.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Right in front of my nose. Okay, policy review.
915, the commercial activities, that basically deals with the Market Street Sports and the naming rights for all of our facilities. Slight changes on that. Let me see here.
No, I don't know if there's anything on that.
And now just some. We just slid one paragraph down to the end because it talked about severability and it's the end of the contract. So we just slid it to the end.
Any questions on that one? 916.
Yep, volunteers. Ours was quite old, so we, as all good educators, we begged, borrowed, and stole. And Donegal had a real nice policy that was in line with PSBA's. So we used theirs. One thing that you're gonna see, people have talked about the tuberculosis test. That was not in our initial policy, but it is per state code that you have to have a TB test if you're a volunteer. But I dug deep enough where the Department of Health defines direct services as if you were with students for 10 hours or more a week. So people that volunteer, that go into the classroom and do reading an hour a week or 5 or 6 hours a week, they're gonna be fine as long as they stay under the 10. If they hit 10, they've gotta get a TB test.
Who keeps track of that?
HR does.
Oh, okay, good.
And building, but also in conjunction with the building
Yeah,
principals.
because I know sometimes volunteer work, expands without you realizing it.
Right, and those hours will be annotated by the building principals.
Oh, okay. The other thing that we lost between the two was, in this one, it talks about, they're under the supervision of a designated administrator. In the old one, it actually identified the building principal as being in charge of that in their building. I like that put back. I think it's always good to have somebody that that's where the authority begins.
Okay,
It's a small change, but
well, it works directly under the supervision and direction of an administrator, a teacher, or other member of the staff.
yeah, but for each building, it's that principal.
Well, but
It's not?
no, because the visitor, if a parent goes into a classroom,
Yeah.
it's under the control of the teacher. That they have to be
Yes,
under
but,
that.
but ultimately, it is the principal.
The principal will know
Who
when,
runs that program at his
Correct.
school. That's why I always think it's good to make sure we understand,
and that's the difference between a volunteer though and a visitor.
yeah, and it could be a designate, and that will work. But I
Okay.
like the idea that identified the principal as being in charge of these programs at their school.
Okay, yep, we'll add that in
It's a
there.
small thing, I know.
So Dr. Z, in addition to the TB test, are there any other requirements that are new for volunteers?
They're all the same. Still have to get the state police check, the child abuse check, and if you have not been in the state for 10 years consecutively, then you have to do an FBI check.
Yeah.
If you do have an FBI check within those 10 years, you have to submit that that check,
If you can find it.
if you can find it. Right. If not, then it's less than 10 years and you have to get a new one anyway.
Are they done pretty promptly now? I know that sometimes.
Yeah, they are. FBI is probably the slowest, but it's still
Yeah,
within a week or so.
okay, that's not bad. Okay, any questions? All of these things are gonna end up on
And then
next
the
week's.
919, the district report card, that was deleted across the state once they had the Future Ready Index, because you can go online and check the scores for each of the schools.
One less
That should have
policy.
been deleted years ago.
Okay, our next item is the student handbook. Ms. Myers?
So I sent Denise and she posted sort of a bullet list of some of the major changes. I don't think there's anything significant, but if anyone has any questions about the changes that were made and why they were made, please feel free to ask. You can see up there, the largest ones, we're just modifying the dress code to reflect what we actually enforce in our buildings. We added our internship program. And then Dina, our athletics director, updated a few of the extracurricular code specifics. Those were really the largest changes that we made this year, nothing.
I didn't have anything to compare it to. Were there major changes in that dress code? I remember what we
No.
went through to put it in place.
No, honestly, if anything, we took things out that we simply no longer enforce. Skirt lengths, we took that out, we don't enforce it. A little bit of clarification as to when you can wear pajamas to school during Spirit Week. Very minor things that we're already currently doing, it's just now in writing.
So basically, the dress code hasn't changed that much.
Not really, nope, it's just really what we're actually gonna enforce.
And I already mentioned to Dr. Z that there's a piece in there about public participation at meetings. We have to fix that.
Okay,
No more questions?
any other questions, but it was pretty simple.
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
thanks.
Thanks, Katie.
Dr. Mann?
Nope, Dr. Z.
No, you're next.
Yep, the health and
Health and
safety plan.
safety.
This is the health and safety plan for its annual review. As noted, Mark, I remember you specifically saying this one time, it's not the plan. It was the application or implementation. So the plan has stayed the same, no changes whatsoever, but because of the flexibility, we were allowed to keep 80% of our kids in the first year and probably 95% the second year.
Any questions on that? That plan took a while to get written the way we wanted it, but it certainly worked well for us. Now, Dr. Mann.
All right, well, good evening. The first contract I have to present tonight is something I believe I mentioned at maybe the retreat. I don't remember if I mentioned it or not. We have a document at the high school that are on microfiche, believe it or not, from years ago. And the machine finally died, so we need to do something with that.
The microfiche didn't rot?
No. So what we have to do is either buy a new machine, which I don't recommend, or just get the documents converted digital. So that's what this contract is to do that, is to finally move beyond all that and have everything digitized and saved in that format. So that's that,
Questions? Sort of a no-brainer, isn't it?
yeah.
So I guess you'll be back with that purchase later. Okay, thank you.
Life Touch, I'll take that one real
Oh,
quick.
okay.
We had some issues with Life Touch primarily in the sports and extracurricular activities. So those of you with
Yes.
students were like, we did like the yearbook and the prom picture, things like that. So what we've done is we canceled the entire Life Touch contract, and there was 5 components of it. We combined the 4 that are non-sports, non-extracurricular into 1. And that's what the agreement is there. So that'll take care of senior pictures, class pictures, anything in the school. What is not included are the sports and extracurriculars. Dina Henry, our athletic director, is working with Katie, and they are gonna find a proper and suitable contractor to take those pictures. So that will be forthcoming as soon as they find a vendor.
Easy peasy.
Questions?
That'll be
Not-
on review or approval next week.
This one needs to be approved today because we started.
It does need to be,
Senior portraits on Monday.
because of the senior pictures on the 20th.
Oh, does it?
I'm
Oh,
sorry,
yes, it
review and
does, you're right.
approval.
I have a motion, could I have a motion to approve the Life Touch contract?
So moved.
Second.
Could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Talley?
Aye.
Mrs. Kapka?
Aye.
Mr. Dillman?
Aye.
Mr. Gensel?
Aye.
Dr. Martin?
Aye.
Ms. Trowbridge?
Aye.
Mrs. Broll?
Aye.
Mr. Benigno, sorry.
Sorry, aye.
Ms. Scipio?
No, I'm supposed to go before you.
I started with Mr. Talley and forgot to
Yeah.
get
Oh,
Mr.
that's
Benigno back
okay.
in.
You can go first. Doesn't really
It did
matter.
feel good for a second.
Doesn't really- I've been missing that thrill, I'll tell you. Dr. Kozer,
Good
you have a new
evening.
math program.
Yeah, so in May, I shared with you the big overall presentation. At that time, I told you I'd come back this evening, check in, give you an update. Any questions, concerns, we'll talk about that this evening. Otherwise, stepping stones will go on the agenda next week for a vote. So in the last 4 weeks, we did have one parent come out to view the materials. I did send that feedback form to the board so you could see the feedback. And then we have another parent scheduled to come in tomorrow morning to review the materials and information as well. Those were the two main updates. We've begun just initial conversations with the company as far as implementation planning and professional development, just to have that plan ready to mobilize, depending on where we go next week. So I wanted to just see if, over the last couple weeks, any questions, concerns, anything from the board that you would like clarified before we move to vote next week.
Are we good, not good,
This one seems pretty
pretty
straightforward.
straightforward? No questions, issues, concerns?
I appreciate you
Spidey
sending
senses.
you sent the parent link to us, and I was able to go through and review a lot of that stuff.
Great,
Since I will have a kindergartner
yes.
and third grader, and it's pretty easy. I like the way they have that set up. It's pretty easily accessible, helps us get caught up. And the resources for the teachers mirroring that, I think, are pretty cool. And like I said, I'm a big fan of the touch and back and giving every kid a chance to master each element as they move on. So yeah, I have no complaints.
Excellent.
Now, sorry, this total package and whatnot, is it for updates coming, like how long are we looking at before we have to put in another expense to update or with this math program?
So this is the one that was, the version we're looking at is the 2022 version. So we would anticipate staying with this for the length of our curriculum cycle. The quote you're looking at, the pricing's good for 5 years. And then at that 5-year mark is when we'll evaluate where we are and make decisions about what happens next, whether or not we stay with stepping stones or is it time to look for something new. So this is 5-year pricing that we would lock into.
Okay.
Any questions?
No, it looks good to me. Yeah, so while the engagement may not have been overwhelming, I think it was well worth it, so thank you for doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah, you bet. It was a helpful process for everyone. I had a lot of feedback from parents saying, oh, this new math curriculum, you could really tell. They heard it, they saw what was happening, and they knew the information was out there. So that was feedback at schools and at different meetings, just parents coming to me and talking about that.
Well, the folks running the table at the forum did a good job when they first started presenting that, just getting the overall idea across to us. So I really appreciate the work that they put into it too.
Right.
And often we're surprised if we have someone in the community that's very versatile in math or math development in young people, and they come in and become a good resource for us too.
Yes.
Okay, I think we're
good.
We're ready to go.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Dr. Mann.
Yeah, this one,
All right. Hello again. I have two professional development and consulting contracts here with the IU. They are in helping us with our middle school curriculum as we transition from the elementary to the middle school. They're helping us with the STEM and the curriculum writing and looking at the new standards for the science piece of it. On the ELA side of it, same type of thing as we make that transition to make sure that we are tightly aligned. We're looking at standards, realignment of standards, things like CDTs, which is classroom diagnostic tests that Pennsylvania offers for free, and they have improved greatly over the past couple of years. And so we wanted to take advantage of that. And so the IU is helping us make those decisions and guide us. And so we have experts coming to us. That's those two contracts.
Questions?
Okay. My next.
Mrs. Everett Fisher, you're back up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Dr. Mann, don't get too far away.
Yeah, I should have just kept going, I'm sorry
That's
about
okay.
that.
So normally when we have addendums on existing contracts, we just do it on consent, but we pulled this one out just because the fee schedule is actually changing on this one. So we have chosen with a couple other districts in the IU to use Portnoy instead of the county for our delinquent real estate tax collection. And what I had asked Portnoy to do, which Dr. Z has up, is instead of just showing you the fee schedule, which is obviously attached to the amendment to the agreement, was to describe what was on the existing fee schedule, if it remains the same. And then there were some, back in 2021, the Consumer Protection Bureau had required some changes with collection agencies. And so there is at least one on this list that's denoted as a result of that action that was taken. So hopefully the comparison is helpful, because if you don't have the history, and I frankly don't want to go the whole way back to 2016 and figure out what we did back then, this is kind of a nice synopsis, and so you can sort of see what happens. But if we need to dive into a bigger discussion of delinquent real estate tax collection, we can certainly do that. But just wanted you to have the opportunity to see this before you're asked to approve the addendum next week.
Questions?
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay. Dr. Mann.
Okay. All right, now, I have two additional professional development contracts. The first one is with Apple Corporation. As you know, the district has put a lot of money invested in Apple products. We are converting the high school over from PC to Apple products as far as the laptops are concerned, and the iPads for the students. And so the first contract is for us to bring in 5 professionals from Apple to work with the high school staff on August 17th. And with this approval, we're going to start planning that day then. Just feel that it is necessary and important to make sure that our staff has everything in front of them that they need to be successful in this transition. So that's the Apple PD.
Does that just cover just that day of training, or is there any support for such a length of time following that day?
My understanding is it's that day. However, I believe they do have a consultant that is assigned to us, like a success manager.
Okay.
But I don't know the limitations of that, I can't speak to that.
I'd just be curious about that,
Yeah.
just to make sure they have the support.
Yeah, ongoing.
Yeah.
All right, the next contract is a professional development and consulting contract with IXL. As you know, we are just finished the first year of implementation of IXL, and after reviewing this year with the staff, reading specialists and principals and so forth, we've done a lot in that area, but there's so much more that we can do and should do in refining our practice with that. And so this contract, while it's expensive, is bringing experts in. They'll again assign us a site expert that will come here and consult. There's a number of professional development days, as well as coaching, where the expert comes here, as well as coaching for the principals and myself and others in using the data and using the tool itself. So I would recommend this based on the fact that it's another large investment. This is helping us continue the work that we've already started.
Questions? Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
And we already had the fire alarm, so we're with Mr. Schaefer.
Yes. And I'm super excited to talk to you about a movement that we're going to be doing for next year, which is going to a new pupil services GIEP 504 special education child accounting system, which is called Iep Writer, and it's developed by Leader Services. So we currently use Sapphire, which is at its end of life. It has been at its end of life for special education and related areas for a number of years. We've had to run multiple databases in order to keep up with the data that we need to provide to the state yearly at multiple times. So the beauty about Iep Writer, What's different about it than other SIS systems for special education, GIEPs and 504s is this child count portion of the system. Leader Services runs all of the data management portion for PDE for PIMS. So what is beautiful about that is all of the data that we're putting into our IEPs and our GIEPs and all of those pieces automatically gets uploaded to PDE with our PIMS. So it's a very simple, very clear process in order for us to be able to get that real-time data to the state instead of running multiple databases. The other beautiful thing about it is a progress monitoring component that was originally developed by IU13 in 2008. In 2008, IU13 sold it to Leader Services. It was an awesome thing that IU13 had, and Leader Services saw it and said, could we take that? So what that means for teachers is that they're able to collect data, and that data doesn't have to be on a Google Sheet. It doesn't have to be on a piece of paper on their desk. They're able to collect data, and that data goes straight into the system, into their Iep Writer. So when they write their IEP, their data is embedded immediately. So that's also a nice savings. It's an efficiency for them, and it's very clear and easy to do for them. So I would say there's a number of other things that are really great about the system, but they're the two highlights to why Leader Services Iep Writer is the one we choose. The other thing is 572 LEAs across Pennsylvania use it. So what that means is when a student transfers back and forth between school districts or IUs, it's a press of a button to transfer those student records. And that again is an efficiency savings, and it's easier for people to transfer back and forth, which is a good thing to
You
have.
should have bought it when IU had it themselves.
Yeah.
Because I think we've expired the part we were sharing royalties with them. I think that's already expired.
It has.
But I remember the nice part is that you could enter data once and
Yes.
it showed up on all the forms.
Exactly.
You have to, every time you bring up another form, have to enter the same thing.
Yeah. When IU13 had it, it was called Solutions Cubed.
Yep.
And so when they sold it, it got pushed into Iep Writer, which is nice. So the contracts are there. There's 6 of them, and the contracts include it's about $20,000 total for the first year, and then when you get into the renewal years, it's about $17,000 plus. And then we'll always have that budgeted into our access money that we generate. So those contracts include the 504 piece, the IEP. On hands, it has a link to our current on hand system. It has a SIS bridge, which means it's going to talk back and forth to our student management system every night and transfer data, and also has some training involved. And then next year, when the training's done, we'll be able to access 2 to 3 free train the trainer events every year. So that will allow us to keep updated, and then they have a really nice, just consistent way of you can call and get someone to respond and help you out immediately. So that's also another good thing to have.
Questions?
Is there any need to migrate our existing data from Sapphire into this? And
Yes.
if so, is
Yeah.
that part of this contract?
It is. My friend back there.
No wonder she's so excited.
Yes, we've had some meetings with our friend at Iep Writer. His name's Louis Astorino. I've worked with him previously. It makes it really easy for districts to be able to do this. And we'll have it all ready to go for the data management. And then on our side, on Erica's side, who's my assistant, we'll be developing caseloads and linking people up with how they're able to manage their sites, whether it be a case manager or whether they be a super administrator. So we'll give people roles and access to that. So that will happen this summer, after July 1st.
Is that everything? Thank you. How fun was it?
Thanks.
Mr. Appleby, we don't get to hear from you very often.
Not too often. Usually I'm here asking for money, which I am also here tonight.
Again.
It's one of those things where when you pay an insurance company, you think they're gonna take care of you, and they turn around and say, you must spend more money. So, for anybody who's been paying attention, K-12 districts and anywhere that has gone a huge digital presence has been a target of Russia and China and all of these components, which before insurance companies loved taking money because they were getting money and never having to pay out. Well, that has changed in the landscape in the last 2 years. So conversations started coming up around December and January about all of the new cybersecurity requirements that the district has to have in order to actually check off the boxes and actually have cybersecurity insurance. The state's also pushing their components on what you can use for taxpayer money. So out of all of that, one of the biggest points of requirement is what they call an EDR solution, which is endpoint detection and response. For lack of a better term, it's antivirus with smart thinking behind it. So it catches everything from viruses, but it does look at components of analytical thinking and what the computer's actually doing. So this is to cover all our staff devices, district-owned staff devices, laptops, desktops, district-issued cell phones, and things of that nature. So that is what CrowdStrike is, one of the leaders in the industry. LS beat me to the punch. They rolled it out last year and absolutely loved it, and a few of the other districts as well. So we're not pioneering it by any stretch of the imagination, but it's one of the best in the business and comes with a lot of the support. So thankfully, it's also under state contract as well. So all of that's taken care of. So
If it's protecting your data, how do you know it's working?
hopefully, no red lights go off.
Well, I mean, if nobody's trying to hack in
Yep.
at all, you wouldn't need it. Of course, you wouldn't do that, but.
Yes.
And if you have it, do you ever get evidence that it actually did stop something that tried to?
So the way CrowdStrike works, every endpoint, so by that I mean a laptop, a desktop here at the district is going to have a what they call a micro client. They all talk to one another. They also exist in the CrowdStrike ecosystem. Before we actually have any red flags, anytime it's occurring around the world, their live system is updating. So hopefully they're prohibiting access as well as preventing vulnerabilities before they actually get to us. But even if they do, we get notifications and they'll actually give us a nice little graphical. If you talk to my staff, they absolutely love just the GUIs of it, the technical term of graphics. But it'll actually give you the computer, actually show you the processes, what it's trying to do, how it's doing it, where they stopped it, what it was trying to get to, and all of this.
Okay, so you know there was an attempt.
Yeah, and thankfully it also will say, oh, this one computer, so somebody inadvertently clicked on a link they shouldn't have. It'll say, it exploited this vulnerability. Oh, you have 35 other systems at your district that have that same vulnerability. Do you want to repair and reconcile that before they get to it as well? And you can actually set some of that up to be auto as well. First couple months we're going to be kind of monitoring a little more and really getting getting under the hood and doing the grease checks and all that stuff. But it's a lot of notifications. Part of this first year contract that we're getting is they actually have a team of NSA, former NSA folks that will sit there, and if it's 2 a.m. in the morning, I'm asleep, they'll take care of remediating a situation, and then they'll let us know as well. So there's some benefit to that as well. It's really the threat landscape is just, yeah, so.
Just how secure should we feel about cybersecurity? I mean, you read so much about Philly and Los Angeles and,
I'm not gonna.
There's only so much we can do.
Yes.
And it's not the cost, it's not the insurance, it's the lost information.
Yep.
As well as the confidential information that got out.
Yeah, these are simply the things that we need to actually have that cybersecurity insurance. And as far as I know, I'm trying to think of is it Senate Bill 78 with the attachment F is the recent one. I'll get more specific information and share it, but that's where the state's putting the legislation out that prohibits the use of taxpayer money in any sort of cyber ransom. You can utilize it for preventative measures and things of that nature, but if you get hit, you better be as prepared as possible.
Absolutely.
So I just attended a Tech Talk Live at the IU, and the key presenter was talking. She works for one of the big financial firms, and she had to go to her board first month in the job and say 10,000 smart refrigerators were trying to hack their system because they put all this stuff on these smart devices that don't have any prohibitive measures on them, and then they bought out. So, as the technical term. So. It's a scary time, but we've implemented a few other things under the cybersecurity insurance, multi-factor authentication across the board for all staff, which is a big thing that adds that extra layer. You can't just lose your password and somebody get in. They have to have some additional components to that. So, and other layers of security, redundancies, and things like that nature. So,
okay.
I'm curious with CrowdStrike, is this amount based on a total amount of devices that they're monitoring? Or do you know how they even put, this seems like such a different type of contract, particularly from an internet security kind of a thing. Do you know how they, obviously as we add more devices or we add things, is that affecting the contract per device or do you know?
it would, however, right now, this is based on the current cybersecurity requirements.
Okay.
So what this doesn't cover, which we also didn't roll at MFA, is the student devices. What they have access to and what they can like run report is considerably limited. They don't have access to the data systems like administrators and teachers and those kind of individuals. So we're protecting it from the top down, who has the most access, and really trying to get down to that level. So this is based on staff devices and district issued iPads and cell phones that administrators and teachers would have access to. So I'm not gonna say I don't know what cybersecurity insurance companies are gonna come up with next year, but right now there's nothing being discussed about protecting student devices. It's the data and where it lies and who has access to it, so.
Prioritizing the target, okay.
Yep,
Any other questions?
This is a one-year lease?
yes, so.
And you want this to pass tonight, right?
If possible, we do have some
Yes.
implementation windows, and July 1's kind of that, the insurance company's gonna call, I fear like they're gonna call me up on the insurance company on July 1 and be like, you said you did this, did you do it? And so we wanna try to make sure we, implementation, so, if
Is this a
possible.
contract or a purchase?
This will be a purchase.
Okay.
I just wanted to make it in front of the board, it is a large
No, I
ticket
just wanted to
item
make
with
sure I
a
called
lot
it
of
out.
questions to be
Okay.
available, so.
So I would entertain a motion to approve this purchase.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Kapka?
Aye.
Mr. Dillman?
Aye.
Mr. Gensel?
Aye.
Dr. Martin?
Aye.
Ms. Trowbridge?
Aye.
Mr. Benigno?
Aye.
Mr. Talley?
Aye.
Mrs. Cross?
Aye. There you go.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All of these contracts and approvals will be in either in next week's consent agenda or when the contracts finally come through. That much said, have any questions on next week's agenda? Is there anyone from the public that would like to address the board at this point? Are there any board initiatives? I have a couple. In December or January, we approved some committee assignments, and there are some changes. Do I understand, Mrs. Kapka, that you are now on the safety committee?
I thought I was the whole time,
Okay, I'll
So-
make sure, I'll make sure.
and I think it's on the website too, so. I was like,
Okay, okay, and Mrs. Trowbridge, you are not going to be able to be on the recreation committee? Do I understand you picked that up?
Not at the moment, that's a Wednesday, that's my rough night for me.
Okay, then I will need someone who's willing to be on that. You don't have to answer right now, but by next week would be nice if somebody would step up to that committee. Also, I'd like to mention that,
Who's ever not here?
yeah. But the fact that they're not here doesn't make me feel real pleased.
I
We're gonna
understand.
make committee
No
meetings.
selling it.
It's all right.
Yeah, but usually I like
It's
that
an
rule.
opportunity. I like you to embrace
I like that rule pretty much. The other is, if you've been reading your daily edition, PSBA will be having their conference in the fall. They no longer make their delegate assembly part of the conference. They're having that on the Saturday, November 5th. We are allowed 3 members at that. You can do it virtually, or if you're in the first 120 people, you can drive up to Mechanicsburg. Is there anyone interested in that? Yeah, it does sound pretty dry, doesn't it? Yeah. In case you like policies and bylaws, PSBA. If anyone decides they'd like to go out of curiosity or whatever, it doesn't cost anything. You know, if you want to go online and you just sort of be part of it. They will be doing platform this year. They don't do that every year, so that might be a more interesting discussion for some of you. So if you're interested, let us know, we'll get you signed up. That includes any board member and our board secretary, who's also allowed to attend that, as a voting member, no less. Anything else for anyone to bring up? If
I
not,
forgot to do a shout out earlier, can I do something real quick?
absolutely.
So I had the privilege of chaperoning the dance at the middle school for 7th and 8th grade, which I was surprised my daughter let me. But I just wanted to say, and I don't think there's anybody here, but I really appreciated the teachers stepping up and putting on something for our kids in the middle school. They absolutely loved the event. They had so much fun. There was food out the wazoo and sodas and everything. The amount of heat in the gym from all of them dancing was unbearable, but it was just an awesome time. And I got to connect with some teachers and stuff, so it was just really, really cool. And especially with the way the last 2 years have been, the fact that they got to do that before the end of school was just, they've been talking about it for weeks. So just a huge shout out to the middle school teachers doing that. It was just so above and, of the call of duty, which is really, really great. So thank you to them.
Great. I didn't get an invite, that's all I know.
You can be my +1 next time.
Had to open my mouth, didn't I?
Yeah. That'll be
Anything
your
else?
birthday present from me.
I will take a motion to adjourn into executive session for both legal and personnel reasons.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.